Hey everybody, I'm Ellie Mae and I am joined with Shannon in 3, 2, 1. Here she is. And I'm sorry if I am glitchy. It looks like I am a little bit, unfortunately. I'm very sorry. But today's question is, do you support Gina Haspel as the new CIA director? And in the caption, we have a little more to that regarding her oversight of torture back in, I think it was, 17 years ago. Wow, that's actually longer than I realized. Like, it was after 9/11, so in my head, 9/11 still feels recent, so that's kind of surprising. Anyway, little background. Gina Haspel, she's currently the deputy CIA director, can't talk. She was the chief of a base at a black site prison in Thailand in 2002, where controversial interrogation techniques were used on detainees, including waterboarding, which is sort of at the center of this debate. She, of course, did not create the technique. She wasn't the mastermind behind all of this, but she did oversee it. So we have most certain that she is going to be confirmed by the Senate. Senator Mark Warner, he's a Democrat. He announced Tuesday that he will support her. And then there are two other Democrats, Joe Manchin and Senator Joe Donnelly. They have announced their support of her as well. And Rand Paul is the only Republican who opposes her right now. And there are enough Democrats that have come out in support of her in the last week to seal her confirmation before the end of the month. So very interesting. We have some more background, but maybe first of all, I just want to say comment and we will discuss them, especially if you go in a little deeper on why or why not you support her as the new CIA director. And of course, there's the whole, she'll be the first female CIA director ever. So that's kind of interesting. But Shannon, what do you think?
So I support Gina Haspel, but I condemn torture. And I think one of the things that led Mark Warner and so she basically was before the Senate, she had her confirmation hearing, and they asked her many, many questions. And specifically, the Democratic senators were really leaning on her to disavow the use of torture by the CIA and say that the CIA will never use torture again. And that, in fact, it was bad that they did use torture. And she did not, she refused to say that at the confirmation hearings. But then she came back and just, I think today or yesterday, submitted a letter to the Senate where she explained more of her positioning on that. And specifically, she said, what did she say exactly? She said, so in her testimony, she had vowed never to restart a detention and interrogation program, but she also did not condemn what they'd done in the past. And then in her letter, she did in fact condemn it and say, what did she say exactly? I won't condemn those that made the hard calls. The program ultimately did damage to our officers and our standing in the world. So I think at this point, I mean, she should be, she should be confirmed. And I'm against torture. It doesn't work, and I think it does harm to us. Sorry, this is like not a caller. Oh. My aunt. But but I think Gina Haspel, I mean, two things. Even before she wrote this letter recently, condemning the past use of torture and saying she didn't agree with it, I think to single out Gina Haspel as the single person and put the brunt of this on her. I mean, if you disagreed with the torture program, you disagreed with how the CIA was run with George Bush, how it was run then, and maybe even how it continues to run. And I think that's the political climate. Oh, here's an actual caller. Hi, caller from South Carolina. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel?
Yes.
You're pro Gina Haspel?
Yes.
And why do you think she would be a good CIA leader?
I think she'll be a great CIA leader, and there's no other question to it.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your thoughts, sir. Thanks for calling in. Oh, here's a caller from Texas. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel?
I think she's great. I don't see a problem with it at all.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you calling in. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think pretty much everyone. Oh, another caller from Washington. Hi, caller from Washington. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel as the new CIA director?
I think she's going to do a really good job. I think it's time to definitely get tougher all around the world. So just suck it up.
Interesting. So she actually has now denounced torture and said she would not do a detain and enhance interrogation program moving forward. So do you think she should do those things, or do you support her for denouncing torture?
I think that at face value that they're going to say that, but I can tell you as somebody who served in the military that there's always going to be a place for getting and extracting information out of people that will potentially help or hurt other people. So I think that, yes, of course, she's probably going to say that, but I think at the end of the day, it's still going to be used, and we're naive to think that it won't be.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your point of view. We really appreciate that. Thank you for your service, sir, and thank you for calling in. Interesting. That's like obviously what most people who didn't support her are hoping is not. Well, what do you think about this, Elly?
Well, so I wanted to find out her credentials besides the fact that she's known for overseeing this torture. I wanted to know more about her. So, of course, I found out that she was a spy, actually, which is thrilling. So one quote I liked that she said, I know the CIA like the back of my hand. I know them. I know the threats we face, and I know what we need to be successful in our mission. And she also said she's seen an outpouring of support from young women at the CIA who consider it a good sign for their own prospects. So that's very cool. And so besides the fact that she was a spy, she's been in the CIA for forever. She's also said that she's excelled in finding and acquiring secret information that she would obtain in brush passes, dead drops, or in meetings in dusty back alleys. So she's got some very interesting quotes. One time she was talking about the moon in the sky on this one night that she was on a mission. It was just very descriptive. So I think, she has an insane amount of support from the intelligence community. She has just everyone is supporting her because they think she's qualified for the job. So that's, to me, a good sign. And I like that she is taking the position now that she's against sort of what happened back then. And she seems, when I was watching some of her testimony, she seemed very awesome and straightforward and just like she's more than qualified. So did we have a call? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to let you Hi, caller from Texas. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel and the CIA?
Actually, I've done a lot of thinking about this, because at first I was like, well, I heard some other viewpoints on, torture and exactly, how bad waterboarding can be and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I support Donald Trump supporting her. I do. These people are bad people, and I mean, if they get scared to the point where they could nearly die, maybe they'll learn something.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts, ma'am. We really appreciate your point of view. We had another caller, but they. Oops. Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of a first female head of the CIA. Gina Haspel is, she came up in the CIA. So compared to, for example, Mike Pompeo, I think she's more qualified than he is. I mean, she's a career CIA agent and managerial or whatever director. So, I think, and this is my thing, is like, if you have a beef with how the CIA is run, then that's a separate thing. Then you're asking you want to fundamentally change how things are operating at the CIA. But if you are with how the CIA has been running, or you are generally okay with the institution, Gina Haspel is just a product of that institution. She's no different from, I mean, she had a period where she oversaw Black Ops prison, where she oversaw torture. You know, the entire CIA, and in fact, our entire country's leadership participated in that period of time as well. Hi, caller from Alabama. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel?
Yes, ma'am. I sure do support her.
Do you have any reservations regarding torture or use of torture in the CIA?
No, ma'am. I sure don't.
Well, great. Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate your point of view. I mean, what do you think? Go ahead.
That's interesting that our callers, despite her saying that she's against torture now, that in order to express their support for her, they're saying torture's fine. That's interesting. We're not hearing anyone say, oh, torture's not okay now. I'm glad she's disavowing it, besides you. But, you know, it's just interesting that they're like, no, it's fine. Do it some more. Like, I just think that's interesting.
She says she doesn't like it, but I think she actually does. And that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about torture?
It's difficult because there are some mixed views on it for sure. So I think not only, obviously it's a big deal, but there were 3 people who were waterboarded over this, from what she oversaw. Go ahead and answer that.
No, go ahead, finish her.
Oh yeah, so it's a complicated issue. I would lean definitely against it. But there is part of me that, in a way, finds certain things justified, but I don't want to have that feeling. So,
Here's a caller from Oklahoma. Hi, caller from Oklahoma. This is Elly and Shannon. What do you think about Gina Haspel and the CIA?
Governor of Oklahoma, I don't think any female should be in leadership position.
Wow.
What makes you think women aren't fit for leadership?
Well, look at Mary Fallon. That's all.
Look at who?
That's our governor. Our governor.
Fallon, governor of Oklahoma.
You don't think she's doing a good job?
She earned this thing. So, from what I've seen, women, you know, they're pretty unstable, especially around menopause.
How does he feel about Margaret Thatcher?
They're not good leaders. That's all.
What do you feel about Margaret Thatcher, sir?
She was just another, more like she was just a bunch of much, really.
What?
I didn't think she was that good at leadership. I didn't see no leadership skills come out of her.
Fascinating.
Is there any female
The only leader I ever seen that a female leader I ever seen that was any good was Joan of Arc. That's about it.
Who?
Joan of Arc.
Oh my God.
All right, that's enough for me. Bye.
Thank you, sir. That was one of the best calls we've ever had. I mean, it was also terrible, but.
Okay. I could go off on that, but I won't. Back to torture.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of our comments most of you guys are just saying yes or no. Again, go in a little bit more on how you feel about this, because we like to discuss your comments. Daryl saying no, they don't support any Republican idiot, no matter who it is. Someone else is saying, I saw a good one. I can't find it now. Someone said yes, and because of her background, hard times require hard responses. Sorry, I should show these. Karen said, I don't support anyone who uses torture. She's not a hero. It's funny because I just saw someone who said she is a hero. Oh, here it is. Brian says, yes, she should be hailed as a hero for her service to this country and helping the fight against terror. Not sure why the double standard from the left, who had no problem confirming Obama CIA director. Oh yeah, I did hear that. I think this is coming from Obama CIA director, or like the person during his administration also supported torture at some point. But I should follow up on that. But that is what I heard yesterday.
his second term, John Brennan, was when he was confirmed as CIA director, he disavowed torture. So in his confirmation, he explicitly said he was against it, but I'm not sure if he was his first term CIA director.
Is that sort of a similar situation now where he was part of oversight of some sort of torture and then disavowed it, like Gina, or is it he just came out saying that, or maybe it was the person before him? I don't know, but I did hear something about that. I don't know if you're looking it up, but if you are, awesome.
Oh yeah, he was in the CIA for 25 years, and the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He left government service in 2005. So I mean, yeah, he must have been there during this. I mean, that was 2001 to 2003 or 4. So yeah, I think it was a similar situation, and he did in his confirmation hearing disavow it, but then now Gina Haspel has too. She's basically said, I don't think, extraordinary, rendition and enhanced terror.
Someone said she did, or Patricia said she didn't start any torture and is against it. Vote the great woman in. Really quick, so the Democrat, what's his name? Warren, Mr. Warren, we'll go with. So he is supporting her, and the ACLU put out a tweet kind of mad at him. So I'm just going to show that really quick. They said, Senator Mark Warren called Gina Haspel's lack of transparency unacceptable. Now he says he will vote for her. So there is another thing that the ACLU was talking about secretive torture that happened that she was a part of. So that's another part of this debate. I'm not super familiar with that. As you know, it's probably because it's secret that I don't know enough about it. But so that's a whole nother element to this debate. And again, Rand Paul is the only Republican right now who is against her. There he is in an elevator thinking about what he's going to do tomorrow.
Why is he against her?
He's strongly against torture. So I think he probably thinks that's part of her fundamentally or something. I don't know. So he's very much against that. And before we wrap up, I just want to say, get well soon, Melania. She's in the hospital, I think, still. I'm not sure. Trump tweeted that she's doing really well. So, yeah.
Which is great, but also we'll be leaving hospital in 2 or 3 days. Like, that's, so many things are outpatient now. To be staying in the hospital multiple days is like kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, so shout out to First Lady. But I think that's all I've got. Shannon, how about you?
Yeah, I think my last thing is I was reading up on this, which I think I'd read before but was not as familiar with, but reading the multiple studies that have been done about the efficacy of torture and what actually works in intelligence gathering from, suspected terrorists and people that you're trying to get information from. And the consensus, including a Senate Intelligence Committee report in 2014 that examined the whole history of the CIA's, rendition and enhanced interrogation torture techniques, was basically like physical torture torture does not work because basically people get so distressed from torture that they will just admit to anything. But what they said does actually work is if you become friends with the person, you make them think that you're their friend and you establish a rapport, and then people will basically give up all this stuff. And they talked in particular, there was one, I saw this mentioned in multiple studies, this one guy who interrogated Nazis after World War II. He was German, and his whole thing, he did no torture on the Nazis, which, if anyone deserves torture, I'm sure many people would do. But instead, he would do this whole approach where he would basically sit down and just pretend like he already knew everything about it, and they were just having a conversation. He was trying to help them get out of it, and so he would be like, "Oh, and then this happened, obviously," and then they would agree or disagree, or they would inadvertently end up giving up all of the information because they thought he was friendly, and he was a German guy, so he spoke German. And I thought that was interesting.
Honestly, sorry if anyone can hear my alarm going off in the background, but one thing is whatever works, do that. Right. Just do that. And let's be honest about what works, and let's do that because, to a point, because if, anyway. Okay, well, we are wrapping up. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, same time. Yeah, thanks, guys.